Hi, everybody. We're live. We're here. It's a lovely day in the neighborhood. Um, got a lot of exciting things to talk about. But the first was I decided, well, I got the garden here. I'm just going to roll the garden so we can see what's going to happen in today's group. And I this is one of the best readings I've ever rolled for anybody, and I rolled it for myself and for us. Yay! We're going to start up here with the mind, which is up in Tree of Life, uh, crown chakra, future, air, water, and true. And the really one that's kind of fun is when it lands in water, that says we need to let go of limitations. We need to get used to the idea that positive thoughts are helping us manifest and that we need to think about some of these things coming through to us in the future tense. But our thoughts are all important. And then these two put together, the crown chakra means uh, position your mind to be ready for change. And that's for the crown chakra. And for the tree of life, it's we're opening ourselves up to radiant guidance. Now, I don't think I'm the radiance guidance. I'm just as being opened up by radiant guidance as you are. But to me, that was a lot of fun. But then that kind of moved because I moved the table a bit. But when your grounding stone lands in water, it means grounding changes that are happening right now are settling into long term patterns. And that's what I want to talk about when I start talking about these energetic shifts. They're long term patterns if you just say, okay, I'm going to go with the flow. If you decide to get afraid or let fear or lower density energies rule you, it's not going to be such a fun time. So, we're settling into long term patterns and we just need to get used to that. Now, the other stone I rolled for myself that makes me work harder is spirit, and it's in throat, third eye, present, air, earth, and path forward. And we're going to read the chakra ones first. For the throat, it says that spirit shines through self expression. Spirit's helping you actually see around corners. And what I meant when I channeled that in, it means that your spidey senses can be supercharged. So your intuitions are really important, and that's sort of helping you see around the corners and move to the next place. Then we get present, which the spiritual changes are happening in us right now. And we have our spirit in air. And air, as you know, is the thoughts part of the four directions. And spirit's transforming our thinking right now. It's also attached to the earth. It's transforming, but not yet finished. When things are in the earth, they're growing and they're changing, they're coming up. They're not quite finished. When they get to a point they're finished, they're either going to fire, water, or air. Usually water or air, because fire's things from the past. And what it says when it's looking at the path forward, it says balance your energy to move ahead. And that's another really important thing that I've been getting a lot of strong feelings about. There's going to be a lot of change going on around us. We need to stay grounded. We need to stay in our own energy. And so, where is our body in this whole deal? And our body's in water, and no, our body's in the earth. And it says physical changes are coming. So, these changes this energetic change that's actually going to affect our energetic system as well as everyone else um, is something we just need to be ready for. It's some people it exhausts them, some people it invigorates them, some people it puts them to sleep and they need more rest. Some people are up in the middle of the night. You just gotta do what your body's telling you to do because those physical changes are real. They're not, as I always used to say, oh, it's all in your head, honey. Well, it's not. It's not in your head, honey. It's in the heavens. And then we have our clarity and solar plexus, and this kind of sums it all up. It says there's more than one way to express ourselves as we move forward. So because something feels like a certain way to me and that's how I express it, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how you're going to feel it. Let's see. Can y'all hear me okay? My microphone did something weird today. I went through a computer upgrade and it now said it was reading me off the wrong microphone, but no one's typed, where the hell are you? And why can't I hear you? So, okay. So, what I'm going to talk a little bit about the stuff I've been working on just because I'm becoming obsessed with it. The 9 candles are coming up. I've begun to arrange readers. Um, I've got, there'll be 9 days of candles. There'll be a 10th day at the beginning where Danny and I kind of go through the further adventures of vibrations in our lives. And um, he's going to take that day on, and we're not really lighting a candle that day. You'll see the candles, you'll see the layout, we'll explain it all. It's kind of like for newbies who haven't been around for the 9 candles before, to give them a chance to catch up, because this 9 candles is really important in that um, we felt a lot of energy shifts coming up to the solstice. And usually I do my 9 candles with the equinox or the solstice. But my guides told me, no, hold off. Wait until Lionsgate, 8/8 Lionsgate. So I thought, okay. So I just pushed off to Lionsgate. Besides, I was running close on time. I thought in a way, when I heard that in my head, I was giving myself justification. That's not what it was. Um, yesterday I sent out my emails to readers, most of them. I still have a couple left to email. I wrote up the meditation that's going to be part of the 9 candles. I thought about how to explain at the beginning of each day so that each person can get the most out of it for themselves, as well as creating the energy for the group. And I'd done all that, and I opened up my YouTube because I was going to take a break, and Pam Gregory was on, and she had just gone up about, I think her show had gone up 5 minutes before I opened YouTube, and I looked at it and I said, oh, okay, yeah, she's always good. It's a half-hour show. So I watched it, and she was talking about how she was sitting at home figuring out how we're going to deal with these energetic changes. And she mentioned Magenta Pixie, and she said, I've included a tape, a video that Magenta had sent her. And she said, view it if you want to, but she's talking about the same thing, and she's channeling it from the 9, I think it's 9, I don't ever remember where people are channeling from. Sorry, it's really important, but I don't remember. Anyway, so I thought, well, I'll listen to what she has to say, because what Pam was saying was very close to what I was feeling. And I started to listen to it. And in the middle of it, Magenta Pixie said, what she was channeling in was, you've all felt the changes that were building up to the summer solstice, to the June solstice. And it said, and now you've got to understand, usually things wane after that. It's kind of there's a letting go period. This time there's not. This time, the end of this energy buildup is on 8/8 Lionsgate, when we line up with the galactic center, when we line up Earth, Sirius Star, and Orion all line up. And it's actually a scale of days. It's from like the 24th of July until the 10th or 11th of August. It's a period of time, because our solar system moves fast, but doesn't move that fast. But 8/8 Lionsgate is the date when it's absolutely straight. And so that's why we're going for 8/8 Lionsgate. And I heard this and I went, holy crap, she's getting the same information I'm getting. And one of the things Pam Gregory had been talking about was there's going to be a lot of synchronicities, a lot of people understanding how other people are feeling, a lot of people getting messages for other people and having to pass them on, which I had an interesting conversation with someone yesterday about that. So we live in really interesting times, and much more interesting than the mainstream media. The way I got involved in energetics and the earth energetics and the patterns on Gaia was, as I think I got interested in ley lines 2 years ago, and I got interested in hearing about the galactic shift we were going through, because our solar system had shifted out of a place in the galaxy where we were protected from a lot of subatomic particles, and now we're not protected anymore, and so they're coming in like gangbusters. And that was from Rory Duff, and that was also another Pam Gregory thing. And so I looked it up and started reading about it, and every 13,000 years, our planet geologists were seeing something energetically happen to the Earth, and it was actually marking the minerals, the stones, things I work with to build my gardens or to build my grids. And so they said, okay, it happened 13,000 years ago. Then they went back and they looked 26,000 years ago. It happened then. Then they went back and they looked back at 39,000 years ago. And it was happening then. And I remember thinking when I heard him first talk about this, well, good Lord, if it can move the molecular structure of stones, what's it going to do to our poor little weeny water-like, jelly-like DNA run bodies? And it's upgrading our DNA. That's part of what the ascension is about. Is it's upgrading each and every one of us and all the other land animals as well. So from starting from understanding those energetics, then I began looking at the ones that are higher up, and I'm going to tell you about one today. I've attached, if you go into the informational part about the show, there's a link to science.com, space.com, and we are in the middle of an incredible number of sunspots. We haven't had this many sunspots since 2002, and these are if you watch the video, it explains it much better than I can, but they can tell that they're very active sunspots, and they're really kind of concerned about something that happened in 1859. There was a thing called the Carrington event, and they named it after the scientist who said, I think it was the sunspots. And we got hit with such a large outburst of solar energy, and that it got through the little belt that keeps us safe. And in 1859, telegraph operators talked about sparks just coming off of their equipment because the first thing that the energy could find a ground to was their telegraph wires. And those are simple little telegraph wires, which we could make by putting 2 cups together as little kids. They're extremely concerned about what this could do if it came through. They know there have been solar blasts before that have knocked out satellites. So, I hate to say it, but if it hits the wrong way, we may be a few weeks between meetings like this, and I'll sorely miss every single one of you. But let's look on the bright side. When we get incredible solar flares, we also get the northern lights, and they're now predicting that the solar flare they think's heading for us Thursday, that you'll be able to see the northern lights in 17 states in the northern part of the United States. And I can remember as a child seeing them in Chicago, and it was a really rare event. So it must have been some year when they were hopped up in Chicago. But my dad would drag us out and we'd go look, and they're gorgeous. So if you live way up far north and you don't live in Vermont where you're getting rained on so much, go out and look, because it should be Thursday evening and Friday evening should be the 2 days that they come. Because once they come over us, they pass away. They go away rather quickly, but they do take stuff with them if they hit the wrong way. Now, I did say that I was going to do questions. And let me see if I get any comments at the bottom. Okay. Okay. Sharon Sipes being a wonderful dragon slayer and advertising executive for my channel. She's putting in all the things, all the ways you need to find me. And I have one question that came through, and I've already highlighted it. It's for Patty. So I'm going to show you this one. Okay. Several neighbors recently sold their homes to investors. Will I get good new neighbors, or is it time for me to consider moving on? That's 2 questions. So we're going to, I'm not going to use the garden for this one. I read through these before, so I'm going to go to the you're going to look at the table, but you're going to be seeing cards. And more. Okay, we're going to ask this in 2 ways. One is we're going to ask if you're going to get good neighbors will be the first line, and is it time for you to move, which would be the second line. I think a lot of people are feeling this shift and change, and they're expressing it in a lot of ways. I got a couple different questions today about moving and home. Okay. The first line of 5 is going to be, will you get good new neighbors? Yes and no. They're going to be younger than you are. They're going to have more kids and things. And what you're kind of looking out at this is you're like, am I missing the bet? Should I be moving on? Maybe it's time for me to get out. So let's see about relocating next year. Oh yeah, that's my card for move. Whenever that shows up in a reading, it means you're moving houses or moving offices. But what the whole story of it is you want to go to a place I think that's simpler to take care of, or isn't such a neighborhood. You're ready to be rid of a burden that's in the house. You're looking at your money and seeing you can do it. You're really ready to move. There's going to be a small issue about money and getting the right price and stuff. But I think it's not that your new neighbors are obnoxious. I think they're just a different generation than you are. And, that can be time to leave. Oops. So let's see. So that's the first question we had today. Now we're going to go to the ones that wrote in the comments. And if you wrote in the last hour, your comment will not be up here because I have to have time to get them over to where I need to put them. Okay. Hi, NJ. That's Nancy Jean, I take it. Made the big move. Okay. So she made it to okay. And I think the okay is Oklahoma. Starting temporary work and continuing looking. What does Spirit want me to know about my move? Well, I'm going to throw this into the garden because it just seems to me a more garden-y sort of question. What does J. Rumsey Wilson need to know about what Spirit want you to know about your move, where you are now? Oh, yeah, you're hitting a lot of things that are right in the center of the garden because these are very fundamental issues. I think this move was good for you because your grounding stone shows that it was this is, I'm looking at the pyrite here. It's a little bit into the past, so we'll read that too. But you're clarifying what you finally dealt with some past issues and decided it was time to move on, and this passes. Look at the patterns you're setting right now because those are the values you're going to be kind of stuck with. That's with being with the new move. That's just a word of caution. It's not a word of anything bad. Then your mind is in the air. That means it's really mental actions are your path to abundance. So you just keep your mind in a most positive way. And I'm not at all surprised that body, clarity, and spirit are in the earth because, when we have earth energy, so when things are coming up, so you're getting to know where you are. And your body said changes are really coming. So you can expect those. I think that's positive for money. Your clarity says you have many paths ahead and you're going to know the correct one. And remember when we had it over here about working with your intuition, listen to those little gut feelings you have about how things are going. And your spirit's still transforming into the situation. It's not yet finished. So Don't expect everything to get laid out, um, you know, all in a clear row. It also shows by this late summer, later in the summer, is when you're going to find a lot of answers. But the big answer is going to come in the fall. That's when you're going to decide, okay, this is the way I want to go with things. Because, and remember, this is winter, spring, summer, fall. And so this is in the fall, and these are really, you know, they couldn't have got much closer unless they landed on top of each other. And these stones don't do that well. So I think Spirit wants you to know that you're on the right path. Keep a good mental attitude, keep your eyes wide open, and that to remember you're adjusting to being in a new place. Even if you've lived there before, and I'm not sure that I know that you have, but even if you've lived there before, you'll be okay. And good vibrations energy. Okay, I wanted to use a pendulum on this one. Okay. Intuitively, financially. If you know, if you've watched me swing it, when it swings that way, that's yes, and this way is no. And then we can throw a stone in. Since you're looking for mediumship, we're going to throw the spirit stone in and see where it lands to see when you should be able to find the right mix for you intuitively and financially. So, will good vibrations find the correct mediumship course for herself intuitively and financially? Yeah, but it's not a strong pull. So it's like not, if it was really strong, it'd be going way out like that. And so it's something that's in the background. Now let's see. We're going to throw in spirit. Give us time or the energy around it. I think you're going to find it this winter because that's in the winter and the spirit's fallen in water. And you're gonna know when to go because your transmutation is going to be completed. All of the how you want to deal with your mediumship will be ready. Now, one of the things when I first read questions, I get impressions, and the impression I got, good vibrations, energy, is you haven't found the right mix for your energetics yet, and um, you know, paying more money doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a better medium or anything else. And I think you need to watch um, some of the other mediumships classes. I don't know if you use a tool. I don't know if you use cards or anything, because when I do past life stuff, or talking to those on the other side, I always use cards, but that's just because I had a ghost try to kill me once. And so I don't deal with that energy well. Not everyone has had that charming experience. So, if for you, though, I think it's just you haven't found a person that you feel has the right mindset for yourself yet. But it was like you saw where the stone was, it's dead into winter. So it'll be early winter. Winter is December 21st to March 21st. I go winter by astrologic winter. So I hope that helps you. Um, and yeah, it's worth spending time to see what's going on. Now, Stella 12, I wrote you and I didn't get an answer back this morning, but I didn't know if you meant on my garden, in which case I'm going to do a quick card reading on how's her garden growing. I don't know if you've got a garden or not. And then I'm going to do a reading for you on the garden. I was not, when I read it, I was kind of like, which way does this one go? Stella 12's garden. Well, if you've got a garden, it's doing lovely. What this shows is You started to meet some of the people you needed to meet. You're getting along with them really well. They're making you learn your own value. You also got the Knight of Swords, which means some part of you is moving on. I don't know if you're physically moving on. We may see that we roll the stones, but your home life is becoming much more stable than it has been. So let's see if and I don't know if that doesn't seem to relate to plant gardens. So I think we must have. I was right the first time. You want to be read in the garden. Okay. We're still at 12. Garden. Ooh. Oh, great. You got some wonderful stones. Your spirit is in the crown chakra over here. And that means enlightenment. Your spirit's harmonizing a lot of events around you right now. So things are going pretty smoothly. That would go along with having not met people for a while that you got along with, and all of a sudden you're finding people that you do get along with, or you're getting rid of the people or you were not getting along with and finding a new group. Your mind is in true and go for it. When your mind's in go for it, it says your thoughts are leading the way and go for it. And when they're true, positive thoughts are helping you manifest the changes you wanted. This is following very closely the cards I laid out. It showed you moving in a very positive direction. Your body is in fire, and what it says is understand your past and accept it and move on. And then your pyrite is in water, which I've already told you. Grounding changes are settling into long-term patterns, which is really strong for you. And you're also, mental actions are your path to abundance. So you've got that going for you. And then your clarity is growing out of this. Clarity is rising up. You have many paths ahead of you, and you're going to pick the correct ones. I think that if you're planting a garden, it's going to do well. If your life is a garden, you're weeding out the things you don't need anymore, moving on to long-term new patterns. And just be aware of that, because the other long-term new pattern we could do is to go back to our old pattern that didn't work. So just keep moving, girl. You're doing fine now. Okay. Okay. Will we get a second car that was left to us and never turned over by the executor, my sister-in-law? Roni, I've got a suggestion for you. I don't know what state you're in, but all states, from as far as I understand it, and I had a close friend that was a probate judge, they go through through probate, where they make sure that the wishes of the will are happening. You can go find out who that judge is and find out what the hangup is. That's a little bit better. I mean, I don't know who your sister-in-law is, but when I saw that, whenever people, I tell you, the two worst things to read about are weddings and wills. Not the deaths are tough, but the wills and what we do with what's left afterwards is always a big pain. So that's what I tell you to do. That I just don't think I can give you. If you want to know how to get that second car back, you have to take the actions to go into the probate court. And they have clerks there that will just tell you this is what was supposed to happen. And they give executors dates, things are supposed to be done by. They can help you, and they want to help you. Most probate courts I've ever known, the people who work there are some of the nicest people in the courthouse because they really want to help the families. Okay, we got, and I decided that for you, baby hugs, what a cool name. I'm going to pull a card, and I'm going to pull it from the Sword of Light Archangel. It's one of Radley Valentine's decks, and I love Radley. I've met him several times. I even have a deck signed by him. I really, really like him. And so when I looked over at my deck saying, what card should I pull for her? That's the deck I got. So that's the deck you get. And when people ask me to pull a card for them, I assume they want an oracle card. Trying to pull one tarot card, all that happens in my mind is I think, oh my God, what else could there be? I mean, what other? Okay, here you go. So, baby hugs. And I know I don't shuffle cards very much. Somebody asked me about that once. I do occasionally, but mostly I think the universe is going to hand me the card it wants me to see. So I don't worry about it. Unless I keep getting the same card over and over again, and then I just need to look at myself. Yes, you are correct. You have listened to your inner voice and have made the wise choice. Keep moving forward. So if you've been questioning a decision you made recently, look at her. You did the right thing, girls. So, baby hugs, good for you. And I've got this question. Move this year. That's going to be a quick yes, no. I'm trying to get my cards straight to one side. So one time I had them all out all over after I was working with Scott, and I stood up and one deck fell and the other deck fell. And I was doing a five deck pickup. Thank God they're all different shapes so that they could be easily sorted. Mo bones don't like leaning over. Okay. Not till the last half of the year. Incidents have happened in the first half of the year that make moving seem more important. But you've gotten your strength back together and you've gotten yourself pulled together. You want to find a place where you can, not only can your family be happy, but you can really be happy. Let's see. I'll throw Into the Garden to see if I can get timing on this, because we're halfway through the year. This fall, I think, and the move might not be done till winter, but it's in the fall. It fell very clearly in the fall. And there were good stones that fell in the fall, so that's a good time to move. Okay. We've got one more question. I'm going to show it, but I'm going to go on the screen to talk about it because I just sat through a big chunk of a class about this. And I thought about this the second that you did this yesterday. Marissa Peer, and I don't know if you know who she is, but her name is Marissa. Peer is P-E-R. She's an English therapist and psychologist. And she's running a 4-day seminar. If you can go over on her Facebook page, you can catch the whole seminar if you want to. But it's about learning to accept your own value and how to accept your own wealth. And yesterday, this is not the question I need. This is one I need to show. Okay. People are going, how crazy is this woman? Yesterday, the whole class was about releasing money blocks. And what she takes you through a whole set of exercises about what do you really feel about money? Because people, of course I want money, but some people, they'll get money and then they'll lose it right away because their mental, their deep down inner self is telling them rich people screw people. Rich people aren't nice. When people have wealth, they got it because they were mean or stole or did things like that. Now, to some extent, there are people who are like that, but it's not true in all cases. A lot of times people make money because they had a really good idea. But a lot of people, if you think the root of all evil is money, why would you want to have a lot of money around you? So anyway, she goes through those impressions. You write those out. Then who told you that? And where were you? How old were you? Because most of us have our impressions on how money is going to come to us when we're 5 years old, by the time we're 5. And so I lived with my second husband and I ran a business together. And we'd had very, very different upbringings. He was raised in England during World War II. He lived with a lot of deprivation, a lot of, the only way you get it is through hard work. even while you're doing great stuff, because he was best boy in his every school he was ever in. He aced every subject. I mean, he was just really that smart. And but yet he always was terrified there wouldn't be enough money. It was because he grew up not in even a middle class household. His parents were very working class. His father drove a horse cart before World War II. Then he learned how to drive trucks because they were so desperate to have workers that were on the ground because most of the men were in the military, that he drove truck and did that kind of thing for them. Um, and so he said that and he was one of six children, and there was never enough. I mean, there was never enough. So he learned that you really have to struggle and there'll never be enough. And you have to panic and worry about your money all the time. I grew up in a very blessed household. My parents had struggled like that in the Depression. But by the time I showed up, they were doing great. Lived in a great big house, big Edwardian job on the corner in a beautiful neighborhood in the Midwest. Uh, they had five kids, but we always had more than enough. And especially from my mother, what I learned is you had to be sneaky about your money because um, that's just who she was. I mean, she knew how much money they really had. My dad didn't, so I kind of grew up in a household like both that. But at the end of the day, I never worried about money. I never worried about it as a child, and as an adult, I would be faced with situations where I was pregnant and I couldn't work. And my then husband, and this was my first husband, he decided that working was optional. And I had all these friends calling me saying, "Aren't you worried?" And I said, "No, it'll all work out." And it always does because I don't worry about it not working out. My poor dear second husband, Bill, when we ran a company together, we'd get to the end of a big job and he'd go, "We don't have another job lined up." And I go, "There's always another job." We rebuilt houses and did a lot of contract work. I did faux finishes and high end wall coverings. There's always work when you know how to trim wallpaper and hang that stuff. But anyway, he kept saying, "Oh my God, I'm really." I said, "Would you quit worrying? You're making me nuts, and you're going to make me crazy." And we always had work. And he looked at me one day and he goes, "How do you know that's going to work?" And I said, "Because it doesn't ever occur to me that it's not." So part of what Marissa did yesterday was sort of wasted on me because somewhere between here and there, I got rid of most of my negative money images. I always know there's going to be enough. I'm never going to be a bad. I remember talking to a friend of mine who was a PhD, and she worked at the airline, and she worked in statistical analysis, and she was brilliant at what she did, and everybody really admired her. And she confessed to me one day at lunch that she was terrified someday she'd end up being a bag lady pushing a shopping cart down the street. And I was like, I mean, it's horrified. I was like, why would you think that? If you even halfway spend your money well right now, you're going to be great forever. She was certainly doing better than I was at the airline. Anyway, not that it's a horse race. We all get what we need. But so I guess what I tell you, Christina, is to go look up Marissa Peer's thing or look at some things on wealth and prosperity. There's not a reading I can put out here on the board. There's not a stone I can throw in the garden that can help you when it's such an entrenched part of ourselves. And I guess one of the things that she was talking about yesterday that has never even occurred to me, that I'm not worthy of having money. But I guess there are people who have that mental attitude too, because they showed up in the chat. Anyway, she's doing this 4-day thing. I couldn't listen to the second day today because I was getting ready for y'all. And I will watch it later today because once you're in it, you're in it. Look her up and see if that helps. And see if, sometimes it just takes working with someone who's better at handling this stuff than we are, you know? And I that's kind of my last question, unless some have shown up in the comments. And I'm going to go, excuse me while I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to see what's written here on the side. Remember, if you write it in caps, then I can see it. Oh, yeah. I'll show you. This Angela lives in Finland, and she writes me about things, and she was the first one who told me that Putin had met with Prigozhin. And I still think that there's a lot of little hidden armies all around Russia ready to raise up against him. Can't believe Prigozhin, he would let him back in the country. Can't believe Prigozhin would go back in the country unless he was encased in metal so that Putin couldn't get him. I mean, neither of these guys are trustworthy. And that's my political statement for the day, and I'm going to take it. And okay, comments. Oops, banners. Hide, okay, comments. Okay, somebody wants a quick overview of the nine candles, purpose, etc. The nine candles is a time that we set out. It'll be on 7 o'clock on my channel for 9 days. I have nine candles. The first day you light one candle. The meditation this time is based on the energetic changes that we're feeling from, we knew they were coming, but I don't know how many of you people, I'm a science geek, and my dear sweet husband, Bill, that was so brilliant and so poor as a child, he became a really well known physicist. And he was always trying to explain to me how eventually physics would explain what we do. And his comparison, and I've said this before, was when we didn't understand what electricity was, humanity did not understand it. We had to make gods that created it. We had Thor and Zeus and a lot of the, I don't know how to say their names, trust me. The gods in Mexico have names that are, by my tongue, totally incomprehensible. But they had these, they always had some god who could send lightning bolts into the world, and they always, lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place, and all that kind of stuff. Well, within a couple of years of when humanity not only began to understand electricity, but people were creating ways to use it. All of a sudden, those gods weren't necessary anymore. And we all understood, oh, it's just electricity. And Bill said, it was always just what it was. We just didn't have the mental capacity or hadn't been given the enlightenment to see what it is. And he said, what you do is like lightning, and they're going to find out where it is. And Bill was up till the day he died, and he was 72 when he died in 2004. He was reading up on that stuff, and he kept trying to tell me that the breakthrough was going to be in the fact that those people who are very sensitive were just born with a higher level of consciousness, and that those who were not born with that can be trained to do it, just like people could be trained to understand electricity. And he saw it in string theory, and he kept giving me books to read, and I read them. But I was an arts major, guys. Physics, that's one class I dropped. I said, I don't care if the truck gets all the way across the bridge. I don't care how you figure out how to get those loads done. I'm going to care that we hire good engineers who want to do that for a living. And then I'll go off and work in broadcast film. Thank you. So reading a lot of that stuff was kind of hard, but I've been exposed to it now for 30 plus years. And so now a lot of the stuff that's breaking out, I've been reading a lot of the fact that there's a lot of discussion of what is consciousness. And there's a lot of people who think consciousness exists outside of the Einstein's world, because what Einstein said was time was a constant. It's not a constant, and things can move forward in different ways through it. But if you really follow what they say, there's no way I could read stones and say you're going to have a better chance at this in the fall. That would fall outside of their idea of a timeline. And I knew I lived outside time. Bill and I even had a discussion about that one day. I said, I live outside of time. And he said, I know you do. And he said, but the current physics doesn't allow for that. And I said, well, then the current physics sucks because we do live outside that. And anyway, we're now finding out there's things going on up in the universe. There was they called it a hum. And in 2015, different radio antennas and different kinds of instruments that study what's going on around us in space, they'd get this hum and then it would go away. And eventually, all these different countries got together. They all created ways they were going to try and trap the hum and figure out what it was. And they did it, and they published the paper on the 29th of June. It was published in all 6 nations. It was India, China, Europe, America, Australia, and 2 more. Um, and they all published their paper all at once. I mean, they all published them together, each of their parts of it. And they found the hum. And what they think the hum is 2 black holes that are caught in kind of, they're either have joined together or they're magnetically joining together. And I'm going to have a whole thing on this when I get a little straighter in my poor little brain. But that's what this hum was. And now they're beginning to look at a lot of other rays and vibrations and things that are coming in, like like Rory Duff, who studies ley lines. We keep having these energy bursts come across the world, and they actually change the ley lines. They don't change them from like where they are, but like the ley lines are now twice as wide as when I started studying them 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, they would get straight on the solstices and the equinoxes. That's when they would really get stick straight. Now they get stick straight for 34 days before, well, around the before and after. Um, so something's changing, a very low frequency part of our planet. And I think we're tied to it because I don't think so many people would be seeking ascension if they weren't tied to it. So the 9 candles, to get back to the original question, the 9 candles is a celebration of all the kinds of energy that's coming into our planet and opening ourselves up so we can, as individuals and as a group, acknowledge these changes are coming, these changes are here, how we can use it ourselves for positive change. There's there are a lot of people who understand the kind of way that we're all connected if you're connected positively. And it was thought that we wouldn't see some of the changes we're looking at now for another 2 years. And all I can figure is so many more people are enlightened than when they first looked at this. And you'll see that if you look at Magenta Pixie's um, show, her little video that was attached to Pam Gregory's yesterday, she talks about this. She talks about the raising of all of our consciousness. And she has a real interesting theory on what's going to happen to the low density energy that's been around us. It's just it's going to like collapse, go away, and it won't be part of our consciousness anymore. I don't know. I just throw gardens. I throw stones in my gardens. That's what I do. But this 9 candles is to get us, for each of you. And if you have an issue like some of you are talking about, should I move? Where am I going? How do I focus? You can put that as your intention when we light the candles. We light 1 candle the first day, 2 candles the second day. I think you can figure the rest of it out. Then 3 candles the third day. And you blow them out each night and then you relight them every day. And by the end of the 9 candles, you should have found a solution. 9 candles was born out of 9 red candles. It's a Chinese feng shui energetic director that things to help direct your energy. That I had a friend who ran a store, and every time her sales would go down, she'd pull out the 9 candles and start lighting them on her counter, and she said it never failed. That things would boost and energy would change. I don't. The first time I did it was at a Christmas season, and it was for more of us, and it was during COVID, and it was for more of us to find health and happiness and get out. Um, every time I've done it, I've been told by my guides a different emphasis or a different thing I can educate people around. But because I'm talking about energy that's coming from outer space, you could give a effing F about black holes converging at the edge of the universe, but you may have a problem in your life, or something going on in your life, or something you really want to focus on, like the woman who wants to find the right people to learn mediumship from. She could make that the goal of these 9 candles, and that might speed it up. And theoretically, during the time of the 9 candles, that person or the elements that get her to there would show up. And that's how I know that it works. Why does it work? Well, it works because there's a lot of us concentrating our energy at once, and that helps. And I always get interesting replies. It's the same thing as people that get one of my grids, they fire it up, and all of a sudden, bam, 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 things start changing. So, and I'm having a variety of speakers come. I'm having astrologers, numerologists. I'm having readers, some that you will recognize, maybe a couple I'm not sure that you won't. I just had disappointing news. One of the people I wanted to have who does a lot of earth energy work in England, he can't make it. But and they're pre-taped, they're premiere, so they're right on time at 7 o'clock and they'll start. I knew I'd do this. Look at the 8th of August and count back 9, because the 7th of August will be the last candle we light. We're not lighting it on the 8th. We're letting that energy happen. And I happen to believe very strongly in Lionsgate. Richard Nixon resigned on 8/8, the year he resigned. And a year ago, I was in Colorado having dinner with one of my oldest friends, Vivian from Puerto Rico, Vivian C., and Sheila and Debbie Freebird Spirit. We were all sitting in a restaurant, and my phone buzzed. And I have a special buzz that's one that's something coming from my kids. And my son was on the phone. He said, "Open up the news feed. The feds are in Mar-a-Lago." We were all sitting at the table together. We got to look at that. And we did a stone ceremony that day. We laid out a pattern, and each person picked out the stone they wanted, and then I explained to them what it meant. I think it's a very powerful day. So, everybody saying hi to everybody. Okay. Anything yellow, it means, hang on here. This would be a lovely stone to be holding. This is a citrine. Anything yellow, anything gold, anything that grounds, because it's like the Earth is lining up with the galactic center, and then it's pointing back to Sirius and Orion. And when I have Dorothy on the first day of the 9 candles, she'll explain what those positionings mean a little bit more. But it's basically, it's something, it's astrology and it's not, because it's not working with the signs and stuff, but it's a special placement energetically. And it means that we're much more in line with the galactic center. So the energy coming from the galactic center is much more directly on Earth. Okay. And Sharon's hyping all my ways to support me, and she actually put the link for the sunspot things in there. And my husband works for an energy company here in our country. He's been talking about solar flares too. Yeah, my youngest is a computer security encryption specialist and works at high-end cybersecurity. And yeah, I mean, and her hardest thing is to get people to try to harden themselves, so if it happens, it doesn't blow everything you have up. That's the other problem. I don't know if you've ever been in an ungrounded building that gets hit by lightning, but it does not do nice things to your computers. I lived in a condo association, and we got hit by lightning. One of our buildings got hit by lightning, and it blew out 7 computers, a whole bunch of a whole bunch of clocks that were plugged into plugs. Somebody's TV blew up. I mean, And that was just a lightning strike. That wasn't anything like the kind of power this has. Although lightning's very, very powerful. Yeah, the whole world's looking at it, but it's like we could all. I don't know if you saw the movie Don't Look Up, but we could all not look up, and it could be, you know, we need to be ready for it. And I don't know if we even know how to be ready for it because we've never had it happen before. So the universe is handing them a mechanical challenge, the same way it hands us psychological challenges. And then, sure, Prince Charming's mom. Let's see, 7-Eleven. Um, you can take, okay, what year are you going into? It's going to take a minute, guys, because remember I said I majored in arts and not sciences? I didn't major in math either. So this one plus 7. Oh, okay. You're going into your next, this personal year that's starting, today's the day, it's starting right now, is a 7 year. And if you don't know about personal years, you can Google it and Google personal 7 year personal 7 year, and you can read all about it. I'm going to have Ann Perry on as one of my days, uh, on one of my candle days, and she can talk about. I think we're going to end up talking about how 7 is such a number of change, but 7 really means spiritual endeavors or analytical endeavors. And if you think about them, they're kind of the same. And um, you can look at that. But I'd read up on it because I have found and I found personal years when I was in my early 30s, when my astrology teacher set me up so that I couldn't. She wanted me. I was going to buy a house and I was going to buy it in my 9 year, and she said you can't do that. If if you buy it in your 9 year, you're going to continue to drag your ex-husband, which you just spent 2 years getting rid of. And she said you need to wait till your 1 year. Well, I signed up to get the loan in February, and I kept telling her, Helen, there's no way this is going to get dragged out to the 1st of May. So finally, in April, late April, they told me they had the paperwork ready for me to come and sign. And so I went in to sign it, and it was the very last week of April. My birthday's May 2nd. And I went in, and there was a mistake on every single page of that mortgage. The interest rate was wrong. My name was spelled wrong. I mean, it was so weird. So the woman was just appalled that was presenting it to me. And she said, I've never had this happen before. And I'm just saying, I can't wait to get out of here and call Helen and find out what she did. But anyway, so they said, well, look, we can give you the keys because we know you have movers coming, because we know this is going to go through. But the first day we could possibly sign this with you is going to be May 3rd, which is the day after my birthday. So I'm clearly in my 1 year. Trust me, every year since then, I've been very conscious of what year I was in. And if you want to know what Helen did, she got a prayer circle going with her astrologer friends that I would not sign the note on that house till I was in a 1 year. And Helen was a trip. She was a real trip. Okay. Oh, this is about the selling the house. Yeah, that could be it. They may want to cash out before anything else happens. And when there's lots of young families looking for places to live that have been in apartments or too small places, it's a good time to sell. Um, okay, that's a pendulum question if I ever heard one. Where are we? Um, we're almost out of time because, like usually, I talk too much. Okay. Will Deb Kane's son prosper if he moves back to Texas? Um, my pendulum does not think that's the smartest idea he ever had. Um, I don't know what he's moving back here to do. Deb. Deb, if you'll send me an email so I have an email to respond back to you, I'll lay a couple more cards. I'm just kind of feeling pressed for time. Um, and I'm not sure I could give you, because it's his question, it's not yours. So, okay. Bernie. Okay. Do this one. Okay. Bernie. Will Bernie get a solution to a rent situation? It's a yes. It's not a straight yes. It's like a yes, kind of off to one side. That means yeah, it's going to take some work on your side. I what I heard in my head when I first read your question was you may need to pay it because all rents have gone up, but it's not. It's worth looking at and figuring out if that's where you really want to stay. I'm going to throw the stones for you, Tina. Tina McSee. Oh wow, you got something going on in your life because you got the tree of life, two stones. You've got um, spirit and grounding in the tree of life. And it says actions you take now that are not tied to your spirit could be empty and not work as well. But you've got grounding. Um, learn the lessons of working with harmony. So I think I'm sensing. I know Tina McSee. I've read her before. I have a feeling some of the basic family problems are not solved yet, and you're doing your best to try to make them work with harmony. But what I've got is your mind is locked into the past, and it's in fire. Don't become so tied to the false energy of the past that you can't get out of it, and you need to break some of the experiences. I think you must still be trying to hassle with the same grown kids that aren't grown things you've got going on. Your body and your clarity are on earth. So that means those things are changing. You're coming to some ideas. Physical changes are coming towards you, and your clarity says that you're going to have a new path appear in the future. So right now, girl, I think some of it's going to happen this summer and fall. But something happened last winter that didn't get resolved, and that's kind of bugging you. Let's see. Okay. Card for Mary. Your prayers are being answered. Your prayers are being received by divine answers, and they will come soon, although perhaps in forms you don't expect. So get ready for the unexpected. Oh, and I didn't show which one I was reading. I was reading this, Mary. You don't have to explain, Dina, for being late. Some of us, I mean, it's kind of a weird time. Um, and it's PEER, not peer like a thing. It's like peer like a British royal. It's P, it's MRI, it's MARRISA, PEER. She's all over YouTube. Her things are really good. Yes, somebody, this, okay, spell it like that. Um, yep, and there's another person that got a lot of those negative images as a child, and you can break them. And she says Christina's working on it. Um, Oops, okay. I'm going to do this one because I've got the cards to do it. Wait a second. And don't write any more questions because I'm about what I got, and that's where I'm going to end. Okay. If you have never seen these are cards are called Talking to Heaven, and it's by James Van Praagh. And if you want to sort of test yourself with mediumship, it's a great way to do it. I have found these cards to be incredibly accurate, and I've done a thing where they just wanted me to read on people who passed, and I said, well, if I can find a way, I'll do it. And this is what I found. So, Irene, what's the message from your father? I'm learning over here, and I'm learning over here. And this is the message he puts with this card. It's a beautiful card. He sees like a swirl of energy coming out of the center of the book. I always thought I loved to learn, and sometimes I thought that I knew it all. But now I'm beyond the three-dimensional physical world. I'm astounded to be learning how everything really works, and this is a beautiful, perfect universe. Even now, I can't completely comprehend God's plan, but I do see the bigger picture. It's amazing. You and I are so much more than we ever dreamed of. The only thing I can share with you is how important it is to appreciate and honor yourself and everything that's in your life. You and I, like everyone else, are God's sacred creation, which means we must honor God when we honor ourselves and each other. I will definitely honor you. So that's what he's learning. He's learning how to be better self even over there. And he's saying, I think Dad may have tried to tell you he knew how to do everything. And I think he's admitting, I didn't know. Okay. I'm not going to answer that because that's their question. Now, if you can come up, spiritual seeker, next time with a question and how that reflects on you, I can answer the question. But there's a thing I don't do. It's called cosmic spying, and it's really looking at someone else's life. I think Debbie was concerned because she's concerned that her son's going to have problems there. But whether they work this relationship out or not, that's their business. And, I know that sounds hard, but let's see. Okay. Okay. Carol, it depends on what's wrong. Um, what are you healing yourself from? If you're healing yourself from anxiety and worry and not sleeping, Amazonite's great. Turquoise is great. Light blue stones like that so are some deeper blue stones. Don't put a stone next to your bed that has a point on it. You know how, well, this one does. This has a point. See, it's got point because energy comes out of that and it goes right to your third eye all night. It's not a great way to sleep. So find nights around smoothing stones if you just want something to soothe your heart, or if it is a heart problem you have. Get a chunk of rose quartz. You don't need one that big. It could be really small, but rose quartz is great for that. That's why this is in my office. It's supposed to be helping me. Blues are related to mental activity. Green also has a lot to do with your heart, your energy. Carnelians are good for the heart, so it just depends on what your problem is. But if you have a specific problem, you can go on to Google and say crystals for, and you're going to get some real conflicting things. I know what I found has worked for me over time. But for the most part, that's how I started out. I just started Googling, what does this crystal do? And I think that's it. Yep. Okay. Thank you for all of you showing up today and being here with me and putting up with my crazy getting used to doing 9 candles again. I really, I would, I would ask you to spread it to other people you know, because it's really a nice 7 day event, and they get to see a lot of different readers who do a lot of different stuff, and they're not even doing their stuff. We're not reading at the 9 candles necessarily. We're just talking about the energy and the vibrations and what's going on around us. And with that, I will go and take a well-deserved rest because I got a baby blanket to finish, get ready to mail, and then I will see. Oh, Thursday. Thursday, Astrology Alert's visiting me. When are the 9 candles starting? I've got it. Actually, do have it on my calendar on my phone. I'm going to get these dates down, guys. It's just. What I was about to tell you though is Thursday at this time. Um, Andre from Astrology Alert will be joining me. And when he talks with me, we don't talk current events. We talk how to use the chart for yourself. And he and I are going to talk about peculiar angles like yods and minor triangles and things that show up in your chart and how to look for them and what they can mean. Yod, if you don't know, it's a very thin triangle. It forms. We're in the middle of. I think we have the second one today. We had one 2 days ago. They're pretty rare events, and they take the 3 planets that are involved and they zhuzh up the energy. Um, let's see. Let's see. Okay. Um, what did I? Oh, because I pushed my calendar wrong and I put me into September, and I'm going. None of this makes sense. 29th. Yeah, we start on the 29th. And that's a Sunday. And that will be with Danny Shea. And this time you don't have to have red candles or green candles, or I mean, you can have any color candle anyway, all the way along. But this time it's going to be multi-can. I mean, every person's going to have a different candle, and 7 in the middle are going to have the 9 in the middle are going to have the chakras. Danny's going to have a white one. So, thank y'all for being here. I'm going bye.